In a world of polished suits and glass towers, she was an anomaly. Dressed in simple, almost plain, clothes, she walked into the boardroom, a place where egos were as inflated as the stock prices they chased. The room buzzed with the low hum of expensive watches and quiet, confident chatter. As she took her seat at the far end of the long, mahogany table, she felt the shift in the air. A ripple of dismissive glances, a subtle eye roll from a vice president, whispers that were just a little too loud to be accidental. Who is she? In turn, must be from the wrong department. They labeled her before she even spoke. Simple, out of place, insignificant. She didn't flinch. Her expression remained calm, her posture poised. She simply opened her notebook, her pen ready, her eyes attentive, scanning the room, absorbing the atmosphere of casual condescension. She wasn't there to impress them with her wardrobe. She was there for a reason. The heavy oak doors swung open, and the CEO, a man whose presence could silence a stadium, strode in. The room straightened up. Whispers died, and all eyes turned to the head of the table. His face was grim, etched with lines of stress that weren't there last quarter. He didn't waste time on pleasantries. The massive screen behind him flickered to life, displaying a cascade of charts and graphs, all colored in a terrifying, aggressive red. "Good morning," he started, his voice a low rumble that filled the room. "Except it isn't. Our flagship product, the one that built this company, is failing. Sales have plummeted 30% in the last quarter. Market share is eroding. Every projection is a nosedive." He clicked through the slides. Each one was a fresh wave of bad news. Red arrows pointed down. Bar charts shrank. The tension in the room became a physical weight, pressing down on everyone. You could hear a pen drop. The executives, moments ago so confident, now shifted uncomfortably in their expensive leather chairs. They looked at the numbers, then at each other, their faces a mixture of panic and confusion. Ideas were thrown out, each one more desperate than the last. A new marketing campaign, rebrand, cut our losses. The CEO shot them all down with a sharp wave of his hand. "We've tried that. It's not working. We're missing something fundamental. Something no one in this room seems to see." His gaze swept across the faces of his top team, a look of profound disappointment in his eyes. The silence that followed was heavy, suffocating. The problem wasn't just a dip in sales, it was an existential threat. And the brightest minds in the company, the ones paid millions to have the answers, were stumped. Then, a quiet movement at the end of the table. All heads turned. It was her, the simply dressed woman. She stood up, her movements calm and deliberate. She walked towards the front of the room, her footsteps the only sound in the dead silence. The executives exchanged bewildered looks. Was she getting coffee? Was she leaving? The CEO watched her, his expression a mixture of irritation and curiosity. She didn't approach the main screen. Instead, she moved to a sleek, glass whiteboard on the side wall, picking up a black marker. All eyes were locked on her. In a voice that was clear, steady, and devoid of any nervousness, she began to speak. "The problem isn't the product, and it's not the marketing." Her first words hung in the air, a direct challenge to every assumption made so far. She started to draw, not complex charts or confusing algorithms, but a simple, elegant diagram, a series of interconnected circles and lines. "We're looking at the customer journey all wrong," she explained, her marker flying across the glass. "We see it as a straight line from awareness to purchase. But it's not. It's a loop. An ecosystem." She drew a small circle. "This is our core user, the loyalist. We've been ignoring them, chasing new customers with broad, expensive campaigns." She drew a larger, fainter circle around the first. "This is the new market. They don't trust ads. They trust people." Then she drew arrows, not from the company to the new market, but from the core users outward. "Our loyalists are our greatest marketing asset. We need to empower them, reward them, give them the tools to become our evangelists. The problem isn't that people don't want our product. It's that we've stopped listening to the ones who love it most. Her explanation was a revelation. It was so simple, so obvious in retrospect, that the entire room felt a collective jolt of understanding. It was like a light switch being flicked on in a dark room. The executives, who had dismissed her just minutes before, now leaned forward, their jaws slack, their eyes wide with disbelief. The CEO stood motionless, his gaze fixed on the diagram on the whiteboard. It was a masterpiece of clarity. She hadn't used corporate jargon or complex data models. She had used pure, unadulterated logic. She turned from the board and picked up a tablet from the main table, tapping on the screen a few times. "I ran a simulation based on this model," she said, her voice still calm. She projected the tablet's screen onto the main display. A new chart appeared. At first, it showed the same terrifying red nosedive. Then, she initiated the simulation. A new line appeared, this one a vibrant green. It started low, but then it began to climb, steadily at first, then exponentially. It shot past the old sales figures, past the projections, into territory they hadn't dared to dream of. The red line of failure was completely eclipsed by a green mountain of success. The room was absolutely silent. The only sound was the faint hum of the projector, the sound of a company being saved. As the green line on the screen continued its triumphant climb, the scene began to shift. We see flashes of her past, glimpses into the quiet dedication that led to this moment. We see her late at night in a small, sparsely furnished apartment, the only light coming from her laptop screen. The walls are covered not with posters, but with whiteboards filled with diagrams, equations, and flow charts. We see her in the company library, surrounded by towers of books on market theory and consumer psychology, a look of intense concentration on her face. Her notebooks are not filled with idle doodles, but with page after page of meticulous notes, sketches of user interfaces, and detailed plans. There are scenes of her observing people in a coffee shop, not staring blankly, but watching how they interact with their devices, how they talk about brands they love, sketching her observations. We see the discarded attempts, the crumpled-up papers, the moments of frustration where she leans back, rubbing her tired eyes. But then we see the breakthrough. A small smile forming on her lips, a complex idea finally clicks into place. These weren't moments of genius that struck like lightning. They were the product of relentless hard work, of quiet obsession, of a deep and abiding passion for solving problems. She wasn't an overnight success. She was the inevitable result of 1,000 nights of effort. She chose substance over style, mastery over marketing herself. While others were networking at company parties, she was working, learning, building the solution she knew they would one day desperately need. Back in the boardroom, the green line on the chart finally plateaued at a dizzying height. The simulation ended. The stunned silence lingered for a beat longer, thick and heavy. The executives looked from the screen to the woman and back again. Their expressions of arrogance and dismissal had been replaced by something entirely new. Awe. The vice president, who had rolled his eyes, now stared at her as if seeing her for the first time. The whispers had vanished, replaced by a profound, shared respect. The CEO slowly lowered himself back into his chair, never taking his eyes off her. He looked at the simple, powerful diagram on the whiteboard, then back at the staggering numbers on the main screen. He slowly, deliberately, began to nod. It wasn't a nod of simple agreement. It was a nod of disbelief, of surrender, of deep, profound respect. In that one gesture, the power dynamic of the entire corporation had been redrawn. The labels they had put on her simple, quiet, insignificant shattered into a million pieces. In their place stood the truth. She was a visionary. The woman who had been invisible was now the most important person in the room. And as she stood there, calm and composed amidst the silent shockwaves of her own brilliance, she offered a small, knowing smile. The game had changed, and she had won. Thank you for watching. If this story resonated with you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to join us for more content that challenges perspectives.